Hello, dear students. Good morning to everybody. You are most welcome in English literature and grammar class. Today, we are going to study the literary terms which are prescribed in our syllabus, and such type of questions about dramatic, about literary terms are also asked in our university exams, and in particularly in our first paper of English literature. There are six literary terms are prescribed in our syllabus. So we should prepare these terms from the point of exam. If we complete these terms, we will surely get good marks in our exam. So there are literary terms as dramatic, monologue, paradox, antithesis, free verse, and like so. So today we are going to know about dramatic monologue. What is dramatic monologue, and what are the features of this term, and who are the poets who have used this term in their poetry. So first we need to clear the definitions of dramatic monologue. What is the meaning of dramatic monologue? So dramatic monologue is a literary term, and as the word of dramatic monologue suggests, this is a term this may be the term which is related to drama, but it is not a part of drama. It is not a literary term that is used in dramas, but it is a poem. Dramatic monologue is not a component of a drama, but it is a dramatic lyric, and we can say it is a poetic form. So, dramatic monologue, there are two words in this term, dramatic and monologue. Dramatic, dramatic, the word dramatic is an adjective which is made of the basic word drama, and drama, like we can say, drama is a kind of play, a story which is presented on a stage by some characters, and dialogue is also followed. So, dramatic here, dramatic means sudden and striking of an event in a significant situation. Dramatic, dramatic means we take its meaning here as a sudden and striking of an event in a significant in a specific situation. Any kind of event is described in a particular situation, and the way of presentation of this kind of situation and this kind of event is striking and sudden. So, other word monologue. The word monologue is derived from monologus, which is made of two words, mono and logos. Mono means single, and logos means a speech. So, dramatic monologue means a speech that is uttered by a single person who is apparently not the poet, and this speech is uttered in a specific situation at a critical moment. This speech makes a whole poem. So, dramatic monologue is not a part of component of a drama, but a dramatic lyric. Monologue may be the part of drama in the form of soliloquy, as we find in the drama of Shakespeare, Hamlet. So there is the soliloquy of Hamlet, be or not to be. That is the fine and famous soliloquy which is widely read in the world. But soliloquy is consisted only a single person's speech, but that is not in a poetic form and that is not of whole form. So soliloquy is a part of drama, but dramatic monologue is a poem and is a poetic form. So dramatic, now you have understood the meaning of dramatic monologue. A dramatic monologue, what is dramatic monologue? Dramatic monologue is not a component of a drama, but it is a dramatic lyric, dramatic poem. And what are the main features of this this term dramatic monologue? So we should know the main features of this soliloquy in this term. There is a single speaker who delivers the whole speech to a silent auditor. There is a single speaker. There is only one single speaker in the poem, not on a stage. Dramatic monologue is not a part of drama, so this poem is not acted or played on any stage, but in poem. There is a single speaker who delivers the whole speech to a silent auditor. From the first feature, we can understand that there is a single speaker in the poem and who delivers continuously his whole speech in a poetic form and to a silent auditor. It means there is also present as auditor, but this auditor is continuously always be silent in during the period of delivery reciting of the poem. So the first feature you have known. The second feature, the main object of it is to reveal the personality and character of the speakers as well as describe persons of the poem. The main object, main aim of this dramatic monologue. What is the main aim of dramatic monologue which poet want to deliver? Its main object is to highlight the personality and character of speaker, and as well as and along with speaker describe persons of the poem, and the poem that is a speech that is spoken about some persons who is described in poem, who is the main um, personality in the poem. Then the main aim of this dramatic monologue is to reveal the personality and character of speaker himself and as well as the persons who is described in the poem. The person addresses and interacts with one or more other people who what say and do is unknown. The person addresses the speaker who addresses and interacts with one or more other persons. There might be one or more persons who might be present as a audience. So who what say and do, what audience say and do, we are completely unknown about their remark. We only listen to the speaker and his delivered speech. So there are three main features of dramatic monologue. Examples of dramatic monologue. When we, as we have learned what is the definitions of the dramatic monologue and what are the features of dramatic monologue, now we come on the examples of dramatic monologue. Who are the poets who have used this term in their poetry? So first of all comes Robert Browning. Robert Browning was a great Victorian poet. He is also in second number in family popularity after Alfred Lord Tennyson. So during Victorian period, Robert Browning wrote many poems, and most of his poems were written in dramatic monologue. So the credit of invention in any other words, we can say dramatic monologue, this term was highlighted mostly by Robert Browning during the Victorian era. So this term was perfected by the Robert Browning. He used this term in his poem as My Last Duchess. His poem My Last Duchess is widely read as a dramatic monologue. There, My Last Duchess, there was a duke who is the speaker of the poem and who describes highlights the characteristics, good and bad characteristics of his duchess who who might have been murdered by himself. So throughout this poem, Duke highlights the characteristics and personality of his late wife Duchess, and he also reveals his own personality. That he addresses to an emissary who has come for an offer of second wife for him. Duke was a selfish person and who wants to marry again for a second wife. So he addresses the emissary. It might be supposed. It is also supposed that the audience is the his grandfather is the father of second wife. So here in this poem, Duke is the speaker and the messenger is the silent audience, and Robert Browning through this poem he highlighted the personality and characteristics of the Duke as well as his wife, his late wife Duchess. The Bishop orders his tomb and Andrew Del Sarto. These both poems are also written in dramatic monologue. Alfred Lord Tennyson, who is also dominant poet, who is also known as the dominant poet of Victorian era, he was he also wrote dramatic monologue in his he also used dramatic monologue in his poem Ulysses. And in modern time, T.S. Eliot presents the most modern instance of dramatic monologue in his poem The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock. Here is one mistake has been done. You should read love, not live. So the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock. In this poem, T.S. Eliot has used the dramatic monologue. Other poets who have used dramatic monologue in their poetry is Pound, Robert Lowell, and Robert Frost. So, dramatic monologue is a term which has been used by many poets in English poetry. Now we come on the second literary terms, paradox. Paradox is also a literary terms, but it is not a complete poem, but it is a statement. And paradox is not a part of poetry, but it is also used. It can also be used in prose. So, prose. What is paradox? Paradox is a statement which seems apparently to be self-contradictory or absurd. It turns out to have a valid meaning. A paradox is a statement, a kind of a statement which seems apparently, which seems apparently, which seems superficially to be self-contradictory, absurd, which seems self-contradictory, absurd. We feel and we says that this statement is wrong because we find there is a controversy between in within in a sentence. It turned out to have a valid meaning, but internal meaning when comes out the controversy, self-contradictory, a contradiction is automatically disappeared. So this statement then appeared truthful. There is, we can say, a truth is hidden in behind the controversy. Example, there are so many examples in literature of paradox. This term has been used by many poets and dramatists, but it has been used mostly in metaphysical poetry. Shakespeare and metaphysical poetry, metaphysical poets, John Donne and other poets have also used this term, such as Shakespeare's phrase, cowards die many times before their death. A coward, कायर लोग मृत्यु से पहले कई बार मरते हैं, जबकि देर इज वी फील देर इज ए कंट्रोवर्सी इन दिस स्टेटमेंट. Death comes only one time in our life, yeah, in one's life, but he dies, any coward dies 100 times, many times. It seems controversial in speaking, but there is no any kind of controversy when we find that cowards dies mentally and confidently many times. They have lost their courage many times. They have lost their confidence. They lost their confidence many times. They can not face the difficulties and they accept their defeats. So cowards, it is truly said that cowards die many times before their real death. Wordsworth phrase, child is a father of man. Wordsworth also has said, a child is the father of man. How can a child be a father of man? But we feel and find that there is a controversy in this statement. But child is a father of man because child is innocent and truly represents his emotions, and whatever he learns he speaks truly. And so in this way and in this sense, child is called as the father of man. John Donne says in his poem Canonization, John Donne, as above has mentioned, that metaphysical poets have used paradox in their poetry immensely. So first of all, John Donne he used this in his poem Canonization, in which he makes a statement, sexual lovers here is also a mistake. So you should read lovers, not lovers. Okay, sexual lovers are saints. Lovers are called as a saint when their love reaches in spiritual height, then they are known as a saint. So lovers are glorified and highlighted, but here is not a physical love, but he describes spiritual love that made lovers as a saint. So this sentence seems apparently controversial, self-contradictory, but in real there is no any kind of controversy in this statement. There is hidden a truth. So you should prepare both terms, and remaining terms we will discuss tomorrow. That's all for today. Thank you. Okay.